Canto 70. Burit's departure. While thus he spoke, the envoys borne on horses faint and travel-worn had gained the city fenced around with a deep moat, protecting bound. An audience of the king they gained, and honors from the prince obtained, the monarch's feet they humbly pressed, to Burit next these words addressed. The household priest and peers by us send health to thee and greet thee thus. Come to thy father's house with haste, thine absent time no longer waste. Receive these vestures rich and rare, these costly gems and jewels fair, and to thy uncle here present each precious robe and ornament. These for the king and him suffice, 200 millions is their price. These, worth 100 millions, be reserved, O large-eyed prince, for thee. Loving his friends with heart and soul, the joyful prince received the whole, due honor to the envoys paid, and thus in turn his answer made. Of Dasaratha tidings tell, is the old king my father well? Is Rama, and is Lakshman a letter 147, he of the high soul, from sickness free? And she who walks where duty leads, Ayodhyá, known for gracious deeds, mother of Rama, loving spouse, bound to her lord by well-kept vows. And Lakshman, a letter 147's mother too, the dame Sumatra skilled in duty's claim, who brave Satrugna also bear, second in age, her health declare. And she, in self-conceit most sage, with selfish heart most prone to rage, my mother, fares she well? Has she sent message or command to me? Thus Burit spake, the mighty-souled, and they in brief their tidings told. All they of whom thou askest dwell, O lion lord, secure and well, thine all the smiles of fortune are, make ready, let them yoke the car. Thus by the royal envoys pressed, Burit again the band addressed. I go with you, no long delay, a single hour I bid you stay. Thus Burit, son of him who swayed Ayodhya's realm, his answer made, and then bespoke, his heart to please, his mother's sire in words like these. I go to see my father, king, urged by the envoys summoning, and when thy soul desires to see thy grandson, will return to thee. The king his grandsire kissed his head, and in reply to Burit said, Go forth, dear child, how blessed is she, the mother of a son like thee. Greet well thy sire, thy mother greet, O thou whose arms the foe defeat, the household priest, and all the rest amid the twice-born chief and best. And Rama and brave Lakshman, a letter 147, who shoot the long shaft with aim so true. To him the king high honor showed, and store of wealth and gifts bestowed, the choicest elephants to ride, and skins and blankets deftly dyed, 1,000 strings of golden beads and 1,600 mettled steeds, and boundless wealth before him piled, gave Kaikeyí to Kaikeyí's child. And men of counsel, good and tried, on whose firm truth he aye relied, King Isvapati gave with speed Prince Burit on his way to lead. And noble elephants, strong and young, from sires of Indrasira sprung, and others tall and fair to view of great Aravat's lineage true, and well-yoked asses fleet of limb the prince his uncle gave to him. And dogs within the palace bred, of body vast and massive head, with mighty fangs for battle brave, the tiger's match in strength he gave. Yet Burit's bosom hardly glowed to see the wealth the king bestowed, for he would speed that hour away, such care upon his bosom lay. Those eager envoys urged him thence, and that sad vision's influence. He left his courtyard, crowded then with elephants and steeds and men, and, peerless in immortal fame, to the great royal street he came. He saw, as farther still he went, the inner rooms most excellent, and past the doors, to him unclosed, where check nor bar his way oppost. There Burit stayed to bid adieu to grandsire, and to uncle too then, with Satrugna by his side, mounting his car, away he hied. The strong-wheeled cars were yoked, and they more than 100 rolled away. Servants with horses, asses, kine, followed their lord in endless line. So, guarded by his own right hand, forth high-souled Burit hied, surrounded by a lordly band on whom the king relied. Beside him sat Satrugna dear, the scourge of trembling foes, thus from the light of Indra's sphere, a saint made perfect goes. Canto 71. Burit's return. Then Burit's face was eastward bent, as from the royal town he went. He reached Sudama's farther side, and glorious, gazed upon the tide, past Ladini, and saw her toss her westering billows hard to cross. Then old Ikshvaku's famous son, or Satadru, 348, his passage won, near Ayodhyá on the strand, and came to a Parpariat's land. O'er Salah's flood he hurried fast, Akervadi's fair stream he passed, crossed o'er Agneya's rapid rill, and Saliakartan onward still. Silavaha's swift stream he eyed, true to his vows and purified, then crossed the lofty hills, and stood in Chaitraratha's mighty wood. He reached the confluence where meet Sarasvati, 349, and Ganga fleet, and through Bharu letter 1E47 letter 1E0D a forest, spread northward of Varamatsia, sped. He sought Kilinda's child, who fills the soul with joy, begirt by hills, reached Yamuna and passing o'er, rested his army on the shore. He gave his horses food and rest, bathed reeking limb and drooping crest. They drank their fill and bathed them there, and water for their journey bare. Thence through a mighty wood he sped all wild and uninhabited, as in fair chariot through the skies, most fair in shape a storm god flies. At Ansadhana Ganga, hard to cross, his onward journey barred, so turning quickly thence he came to Pragv, a letter 1E60, city dear to fame. There having gained the farther side to Ku letter 1E60, Ikosh letter 1E60, he hide. The stream he crossed, and onward then to Dharmavardhan brought his men. Thence, leaving Tor a letter 1E47 on the north, to Jambaprastha journeyed forth. Then onward to a pleasant grove by fair Varutha's town he drove, and when a while he there had stayed, went eastward from the friendly shade. Eastward of Ujjaina, where the Priyak trees are tall and fair, he passed, and rested there each steed exhausted with the journey's speed. Their orders to his men addressed, with quickened pace he onward pressed, while at Sarvatirtha spent, then o'er Utnika he went. O'er many a stream beside he sped with coursers on the mountains bred, and passing Hastiprish letter 1E60 took the road o'er Ku letter 1E60, As fair brook. Then, at Lohitia's village, he crossed o'er the swift Kapavati, then passed, where Ekazala stands. The letter 1E47 Iqt S flood and sands, and Gamati of fair renown by Vinata's delightful town. When to Kalinga near he drew, a wood of sal trees charmed the view, that passed, the sun began to rise, and Burrit saw with happy eyes Ayodhya's city, built and planned by ancient Manu's royal hand. 7 nights upon the road had passed, and when he saw the town at last before him in her beauty spread, thus Burrit to the driver said, "This glorious city from afar, wherein pure groves and gardens are, seems to my eager eyes today a lifeless pile of yellow clay. Through all her streets, where erst a throng of men and women streamed along, uprose the multitudinous roar today, I hear that sound no more. No longer do mine eyes behold the leading people, as of old, on elephants, cars, horses, go abroad and homeward, to and fro. The brilliant gardens, where we heard the wild note of each rapturous bird, where men and women loved to meet, in pleasant shades, for pastime sweet. These to my eyes this day appear joyless and desolate and drear, each tree that graced the garden grieves, and every path is spread with leaves. The merry cry of bird and beast, that spake aloud their joy, has ceased, still is the long melodious note that charmed us from each warbling throat. Why blows the blessed air no more? The incense-breathing air that bore its sweet, incomparable scent of sandal and of aloe blent. Why are the drum and tabor mute? Why is the music of the lute that woke responsive to the quill, loved by the happy, hushed and still? My boding spirit gathers hence dire sins of awful consequence, and omens, crowding on my sight, weigh down my soul with wild affright. Scarce shall I find my friends who dwell here in Ayodhya safe and well, for surely not without a cause this crushing dread my soul auras. Heartsick, dejected, every sense confused by terror's influence, on to the town he quickly swept which King Ikshvaku's children kept. He passed through Vajyanta's gate with weary steeds disconsolate, and all who near their station held, his escort, crying victory, swelled with heart distracted still he bowed farewell to all the following crowd, turned to the driver and began to question thus the weary man. Why was I brought, O free from blame, so fast, unknown for what I came? Yet fear of ill my heart appalls, and all my wonted courage falls. For I have heard in days gone by the changes seen when monarchs die, and all those signs, O charioteer, I see today surround me here. Each kinsman's house looks dark and grim, no hand delights to keep it trim. The beauty vanished, and the pride, the doors, unkept, stand open wide. No morning rites are offered there, no grateful incense loads the air, and all therein, with brows o'ercast, sit joyless on the ground and fast. Their lovely chaplets dry and dead, their courts unswept, with dust o'erspread. The temples of the gods today no more look beautiful and gay. Neglected stands each holy shrine, each image of a Lord divine. No shop where flowery wreaths are sold is bright and busy as of old. The women and the men I mark absorbed in fancies dull and dark, their gloomy eyes with tears bedewed, a poor afflicted multitude. His mind oppressed with woe and dread, thus Burrit to his driver said, viewed the dire signs Ayodhyá showed, and onward to the palace rode. Canto 72. Burrit's inquiry. He entered in, he looked around, nor in the house his father found, then to his mother's dwelling, bent to see her face, he quickly went. She saw her son, so long away, returning after many a day, and from her golden seat in joy sprung forward to her darling boy. Within the bower, no longer bright, came Burrit lover of the right, and bending with observance, sweet clasped his dear mother's lovely feet. Long kisses on his brow she pressed, and held her hero to her breast, then fondly drew him to her knees, and questioned him in words like these: How many nights have fled, since thou leftest thy grandsire's home, till now? By flying steeds, so swiftly borne art thou not weak and travel-worn? How fares the king my father, tell? Is Ayodhyá thine uncle well? And now, my son, at length declare the pleasure of the visit there. Thus to the offspring of the king she spake with tender questioning, and to his mother made reply young Burrit of the lotus eye. The 7th night has come and fled since from my grandsire's home I sped. My mother's sire is well, and he Ayodhyá from all trouble free. The gold and every precious thing presented by the conqueror king, the slower guards behind convey. I left them weary on the way. Urged by the men my father sent, my hasty course I hither bent now, I implore, an answer deign, and all I wish to know, explain. Unoccupied, I now behold this couch of thine adorned with gold, and each of King Ikshvaku's race appears with dark and gloomy face. The king is I, my mother dear, most constant in his visits here. To meet my sire I sought this spot, how is it that I find him not? I long to clasp my father's feet, say where he lingers I entreat. Perchance the monarch may be seen where dwells Kausalya, eldest queen. His father's fate from him concealed, Kaikeyí to her son revealed, told as glad news the story sad, for lust of sway had made her mad. Thy father, O my darling, no, has gone the way all life must go, devout and famed, of lofty thought, in whom the good their refuge sought. When Burrit pious, pure, and true, heard the sad words which pierced him through, grieved for the sire he loved so well, prostrate upon the ground, he fell. Down fell the strong-armed hero, high tossing his arms, and a sad cry. Ah, woe is me, unhappy, slain. Burst from his lips again, afflicted for his father's fate by grief's intolerable weight, with every sense amazed and cowed the splendid hero wailed aloud. Ah me, my royal father's bed of old a gentle radiance shed, like the pure sky when clouds are past, and the moon's light is o'er it cast. Ah, of its wisest lord bereft, it shows today faint radiance left, as when the moon has left the sky. Or mighty ocean's depths are dry. With choking sobs, with many a tear pierced to the heart with grief sincere, the best of conquerors poured his sighs, and with his robe veiled face and eyes. Kaikeyí saw him fallen there, godlike, afflicted in despair, used every art to move him thence, and tried him thus with eloquence. Arise, arise, my dearest, why wilt thou, famed prince, so lowly lie? Not by such grief as this are moved good men like thee, by all approved. The earth thy father nobly swayed, and rights to heaven he duly paid. At length his race of life was run, thou shouldst not mourn for him, my son. Long on the ground he wept and rolled from side to side, still unconsoled, and then, with bitter grief oppressed, his mother with these words addressed. This joyful hope my bosom fed when from my grandsire's halls I sped. The king will throne his eldest son, and sacrifice, as should be done. But all is changed, my hope was vain, and this sad heart is rent in twain, for my dear father's face I miss, who ever sought his loved one's bliss. But in my absence, mother, say, what sickness took my sire away? Ah, happy Rama, happy they allowed his funeral rites to pay. The glorious monarch has not learned that I his darling have returned, or quickly had he hither sped, and pressed his kisses on my head. Where is that hand whose gentle touch, most soft and kind I loved so much, the hand that loved to brush away the dust that on his darling lay? Quick, bear the news to Rama's ear, tell the great chief that I am here, brother and sire and friend, and all is he, and I his trusty thrall. For noble hearts, to virtue true, their sires and elder brothers view. To clasp his feet I fain would bow, he is my hope and refuge now. What said my glorious sire, who knew virtue and vice, so brave and true? Firm in his vows, dear lady, say, what said he ere he passed away? What was his rede to me? I crave to hear the last advice he gave. Thus closely questioned by the youth, Kaikeyí spoke the mournful truth. The high-souled monarch wept and sighed for Rama, Sítá, Lakshm, a letter 1E47, cried then, best of all who go to bliss, pass to the world which follows this. Ah, blessed are the people who shall Rama and his Sítá view, and Lakshm, a letter 1E47 of the mighty arm, returning free from scathe and harm. Such were the words, the last of all thy father, ere he died, let fall, by fate and death's dread coils enwound, as some great elephant is bound. He heard, yet deeper in despair, her lips this double woe declare, and with sad brow that showed his pain questioned his mother thus again. But where is he, of virtue tried, who fills Kausalya's heart with pride? Where is the noble Rama? Where is Lakshm, a letter 1E47 brave, and Sítá fair? Thus pressed, the queen began to tell the story as each thing befell, and gave her son in words like these, the mournful news she meant to please. The prince is gone in hermit dress to D, a letter 1E47 letter 1E0D, a KS mighty wilderness. And Lakshm, a letter 1E47 brave, and Sítá share the wanderings of the exile there. Then Bharat's soul with fear was stirred lest Rama from the right had erred, and jealous for ancestral fame, he put this question to the dame. Has Rama grasped with lawless hold a Brahman's house, or land, or gold? Has Rama harmed with ill intent some poor or wealthy innocent? Was Rama, faithless to his vows, enamored of another's spouse? Why was he sent to D, a letter 1E47 letter 1E0D, a KS wild, like one who kills an unborn child? He questioned thus, and she began to tell her deeds and crafty plan. Deceitful-hearted, fond, and blind as is the way of womankind. No Brahman's wealth has Rama seized, no dame his wandering fancy pleased, his very eyes he ne'er allows to gaze upon a neighbor's spouse. But when I heard the monarch plan to give the realm to Rama's hand, I prayed that Rama hence might flee, and claimed the throne, my son, for thee. The king maintained the name he bare, and did according to my prayer, and Rama, with his brother, sent, and Sítá, forth to banishment. When his dear son was seen no more, the Lord of earth was troubled sore. Too feeble with his grief to strive, he joined the elemental five. Up then, most dutiful. Maintain the royal state, arise and reign. For thee, my darling son, for thee all this was planned and wrought by me. Come, cast thy grief and pain aside, with manly courage fortified. This town and realm are all thine own, and fear and grief are here unknown. Come, with VAS acute, ISH letter 1E60, HAS guiding aid, and priests in ritual skilled let the king's funeral dues be paid, and every claim fulfilled. Perform his obsequies with all that suits his rank and worth, then give the mandate to install thyself as Lord of Earth. Canto 73. Kaikeyí reproached. But when he heard the queen relate his brother's doom, his father's fate, thus Bharat to his mother said with burning grief disquieted, Alas, what boots it now to reign, struck down by grief and well-nigh slain? Ah, both are gone, my sire, and he who was a second sire to me. Grief upon grief thy hand has made, and salt upon gashes laid, for my dear sire has died through thee, and Rama roams a devotee. Thou camest like the night of fate, this royal house to devastate. Unwitting ill, my hapless sire placed in his bosom coals of fire, and through thy crimes his death he met, O thou whose heart on sin is set. Shame of thy house! Thy senseless deed has reft all joy from Raghu's seed. The truthful monarch, dear to fame, received thee as his wedded dame. and by thy act to misery doomed, has died by flames of grief consumed. Kausalya and Sumitra to the coming of my mother rue, and if they live oppressed by woe, for their dear sons their sad tears flow. Was he not ever good and kind, that hero of the duteous mind? Skilled in all filial duties, he as a dear mother treated thee. Kausalya too, the eldest queen, who far foresees with insight keen, did she not ever show thee all a sister's love at duty's call? And hast thou from the kingdom chased her son, with bark around his waist, to the wild wood, to dwell therein? And dost not sorrow for thy sin? The love I bear to Raghu's son thou knewest not, ambitious one, if thou hast wrought this impious deed for royal sway, in lawless greed. With him in Lakshman, a letter 1E47 far away, what power have I the realm to sway? What hope will fire my bosom, when I see no more these lords of men? The holy king, who loved the right, relied on Rama's power and might, his guardian and his glory, so joy's marrow in his woods below. How can I bear, a steer untrained, the load his mightier strength sustained? What power have I to brook alone this weight, on feeble shoulders thrown? But if the needful power were bought by strength of mind and brooding thought, no triumph shall attend the dame, who dooms her son to lasting shame. Now should no doubt that son prevent from quitting thee on evil bent. But Rama's love o'erpowers my will, who holds thee as his mother still. Whence did the thought, O thou whose eyes are turned to sinful deeds, arise? A plan our ancient sires would hate, O fallen from thy virtuous state. For in the line from which we spring the eldest is anointed king, no monarchs from the rule decline, and, least of all, Ikshvaku's line. Our holy sires, to virtue true upon our race a lustre threw. But with subversive frenzy, thou haste marred our lineal honor now, of lofty birth, a noble line of previous kings is also thine, then whence this hated folly? Whence this sudden change that steals thy sense? Thou shalt not gain thine impious will, O thou whose thoughts are bent on ill, thou from whose guilty hand descend these sinful blows my life to end. Now to the forest will I go, thy cherished plans to overthrow, and bring my brother, free from stain, his people's darling, home again. And Rama, when again he turns, whose glory like a beacon burns, in me a faithful slave shall find to serve him with contented mind. Canto 74. Kabandha's death. When wise Kabandha thus had taught the means to find the dame they sought, and urged them onward in the quest, he thus again the prince addressed. This path, O Raghu's son, pursue where those fair trees which charm the view, extending westward far away, the glory of their bloom display, where their bright leaves rose apples show, and the tall jack and mango grow. Whene'er you will, those trees ascend, or the long branches shake and bend, their savory fruit like amrit eat, then onward speed with willing feet. Beyond this shady forest, decked with flowering trees, your course direct. Another grove you then will find with every joy to take the mind, like Nandan with its charms displayed, or northern Kuru's blissful shade, where trees distill their balmy juice, and fruit through all the year produce, where shades with seasons ever fair with Chaitraratha may compare, where trees whose sprays with fruit are bowed rise like a mountain or a cloud. There, when you list, from time to time, the loaded trees may LAKSHM, a letter 1E47 climb, or from the shaken boughs supply sweet fruit that may with amrit vie. The onward path pursuing still from wood to wood, from hill to hill, your happy eyes at length will rest on Pampa's lotus-covered breast. Her banks with gentle slope descend, nor stones nor weed the eyes offend, and o'er smooth beds of silver sand lotus and lily blooms expand. Their swans and ducks and curlews play, and keen-eyed ospreys watch their prey, and from the limpid waves are heard glad notes of many a waterbird. Untaught a deadly foe to fear they fly not when a man is near, and fat as balls of butter they will, when you list, your hunger stay. Then LAKSHM, a letter 1E47 with his shafts, will take the fish that swim the brook and lake, remove each bone and scale and fin, or strip away the speckled skin, and then on iron skewers broil for thy repast the savory spoil. Thou on a heap of flowers shalt rest, and eat the meal his hands have dressed. There shalt thou lie on Pampa's brink. And LAKSHM, a letter 1E47's hand, shall give thee drink, filling a lotus leaf with cool, pure water from the crystal pool, to which the opening blooms have lent the riches of divinest scent. Beside thee at the close of day, will a kshm, a letter 1e47 through the woodland stray, and show thee where the monkeys sleep in caves beneath the mountain steep. Loud-voiced as bulls they forth will burst and seek the flood, oppressed by thirst, then rest awhile, their wants supplied, their well-fed bands on Pampa's side. Thou roving there at eve shalt see rich clusters hang on shrub and tree, and Pampa flushed with roseate glow, and at the view forget thy woe. There shalt thou mark with strange delight each loveliest flower that blooms by night, while lily buds that shrink from day their tender loveliness display. In that far wild no hand, but thine those peerless flowers in wreaths shall twine. Immortal in their changeless pride, ne'er fade those blooms and ne'er are dried. There erst on holy thoughts, intent their days, Matanga's pupils spent. Once for their master food they sought, and store of fruit and berries brought. Then as they labored through the dell from limb and brow the heat drops fell, thence sprang and bloomed those wondrous trees, such holy power have devotees. Thus from the hermits heat drops sprung, their growth is ever fresh and young. Their Savari is dwelling yet, who served each vanished anchoret. Beneath the shade of holy boughs, that ancient Vaders keeps her vows. Her happy eyes on thee will fall, O godlike prince, adored by all, and she, whose life is pure from sin, a blissful seat in heaven will win. But cross, O son of Raghu, o'er, and stand on Pampa's western shore. A tranquil hermitage that lies deep in the woods will meet thine eyes. No wandering elephants invade the stillness of that holy shade, but checked by Saint Matanga's power, they spare each consecrated bower. Through many an age those trees have stood world-famous as Matanga's would still. Raghu's son, pursue thy way. Through shades where birds are vocal stray, fair as the blessed wood where rove immortal gods, or Nandan's grove. Near Pampa eastward, full in sight, stands Rishiamuka's wood-crowned height. 'Tis hard to climb that towering steep, where serpents unmolested sleep. The free and bounteous, formed of old by Brahma of superior mold, who sink when day is done to rest reclining on that mountain crest. What wealth or joy in dreams they view, awaking find the vision true. But if a villain stained with crime that holy hill presume to climb, the giants in their fury sweep from the hill top the wretch asleep. There loud and long is heard the roar of elephants on Pampa's shore, who near Matanga's dwelling stray, and in those waters bathe and play. Awhile they revel by the flood, their temples stained with streams like blood, then wander far away dispersed, dark as huge clouds before they burst. But ere they part they drink their fill of bright pure water from the rill, delightful to the touch, where meet scents of all flowers divinely sweet, then speeding from the riverside deep in the sheltering thicket hide. Then bears and tigers shalt thou view, whose soft skins show the sapphire's hue, and sylvan deer that wander nigh shall harmless from thy presence fly. High in that mountain's wooded side is a fair cavern deep and wide, yet hard to enter. Piles of rock the portals of the cavern block. 521, fast by the eastern door a pool gleams with broad waters fresh and cool, where stores of roots and fruit abound, and thick trees shade the grassy ground. This mountain cave the virtuous-souled Sugrava and his vanners hold, and oft the mighty chieftain seeks the summits of those towering peaks. Thus spake Kabanta, high in air, his counsel to the royal pair. Still on his neck that wreath he bore, and radiance like the suns he wore. Their eyes the princely brothers raised, and on that blissful being gazed. Behold we go, no more delay, begin, they cried, thy heavenward way. Depart, Kabanta's voice replied, pursue your search and bliss betide. Thus to the happy chiefs he said, then on his heavenward journey sped. Thus once again, Kabanta won a shape, that glittered like the sun without a spot or stain. Thus bade he Rama from the air, to great Sugrava's side, repair his friendly love to gain. Canto 75. Savari. Thus counseled by their friendly guide on through the wood the princes hide, pursuing still the eastern road to Pampa which Kabanta showed, where trees that on the mountains grew with fruit like honey charmed the view. They rested weary for the night upon a mountain's wooded height, then onward with the dawn they hied, and stood on Pampa's western side, where Savari's fair home they viewed deep in that shady solitude. The princes reached the holy ground, where noble trees stood thick around, enjoying in the lovely view near to the aged Vaders drew. To meet the sons of Raghu came, with hands upraised, the pious dame, and bending low with reverence meet welcomed them both and pressed their feet. Then water as beseems she gave, their lips to cool, their feet to lave. To that pure saint, who never broke one law of duty, Rama spoke. I trust no cares invade thy peace, while holy works and zeal increase, that thou content with scanty food all touch of ire hast long subdued, that all thy vows are well maintained while peace of mind is surely gained, that reverence of the saints who taught thy faithful heart due fruit has brought. The aged Vaders pure of taint, revered by every perfect saint, rose to her feet by Rama's side, and thus in gentle tones replied, My penance meed this day I see complete, my lord, in meeting thee. This day the fruit of birth I gain, nor have I served the saints in vain. I reap rich fruits of toil and vow, and heaven itself awaits me now, when I, O chief of men, have done honor to thee the godlike one. I feel, great lord, thy gentle eye my earthly spirit purify, and I, brave tamer of thy foes, shall through thy grace in bliss repose. Thy feet by Chit are acute letter 1E60, astrayed when those great saints whom I obeyed, in dazzling chariots bright of hue, hence to their heavenly mansions flew. As the high saints were borne away, I heard their holy voices say, In this pure grove, O devotee, Prince Rama soon will visit thee. When he and Lakshman, a letter 1E47 seek this shade, be to thy guests all honor paid. Him shalt thou see, and pass away to those blessed worlds which ne'er decay. To me, O mighty chief, the best of lofty saints these words addressed. Laid up within my dwelling lie fruits of each sort which woods supply, food culled for thee in endless store from every tree on Pampa's shore. Thus to her virtuous guest she sued, and he, with heavenly lore endued, words such as these in turn addressed to her with equal knowledge blessed. Danu himself, the power has told of thy great master's lofty souled. Now if thou will, mine eyes would fain assurance of their glories gain. She heard the prince his wish declare, then rose she, and the royal pair of brothers through the wood she led that round her holy dwelling spread. Behold Matanga's wood, she cried, a grove made famous far and wide. Dark as thick clouds, and filled with herds of wandering deer and joyous birds. In this pure spot each reverend sire, with offerings fed the holy fire. See here the western altar stands where daily with their trembling hands the aged saints, so long obeyed by me, their gifts of blossoms laid. The holy power, O Raghu's son, by their ascetic virtue won, still keeps their well-loved altar bright, filling the air with beams of light. And those 7 neighboring lakes behold which, when the saints infirm and old, worn out by fasts, no longer sought, moved hither drawn by power of thought. Look, Rama, where the devotees hung their bark mantles on the trees, fresh from the bath. Those garments wet through many a day are dripping yet. See, through those aged hermits, power the tender spray, this bright-hued flower with which the saints their worship paid, fresh to this hour nor change nor fade. Here thou hast seen each lawn and dell, and heard the tale I had to tell. Permit thy servant, Lord, I pray, to cast this mortal shell away, for I would dwell, this life resigned, with those great saints of lofty mind, whom I within this holy shade with reverential care obeyed. When Rama and his brother heard the pious prayer the dame preferred, filled full of transport, and amazed they marveled as her words they praised. Then Rama to the Vader said whose holy vows were perfected, Go, lady, where thou fain wouldst be, O thou who well hast honored me. Her locks in hermit fashion tied, clad in bark coat and black deer hide, when Rama gave consent, the dame resigned her body to the flame. Then like the fire that burns and glows, to heaven the sainted lady rose, in all her heavenly garments dressed, immortal wreaths on neck and breast. Bright with celestial gems, she shone most beautiful to look upon, and like the flame of lightning sent a glory through the firmament. That holy sphere the dame attained, by depth of contemplation gained, where roam high saints with spirits pure in bliss that shall for aye endure. Canto 76. Pampa. When Savari had sought the skies, and gained her splendid virtue's prize, Rama with Lakshman, a letter 1E47 stayed to brood o'er the strange scenes their eyes had viewed. His mind upon those saints was bent, for power and might preeminent, and he to musing Lakshman, a letter 1E47 spoke the thoughts that in his bosom woke. Mine eyes this wondrous home have viewed of those great saints with souls subdued, where peaceful tigers dwell and birds, and deer abound in heedless herds. Our feet upon the banks have stood of those 7 lakes within the wood, where we have duly dipped, and paid libations to each royal shade. Forgot now are thoughts of ill, and joyful hopes my bosom fill. Again my heart is light and gay, and grief and care have passed away. Come, brother, let us hasten where bright Pampa's flood is fresh and fair, and towering in their beauty near Mount Rishyamukha's heights appear, which, offspring of the Lord of Light, still fearing Bali's conquering might, with 4 brave chiefs of Vanner race Sugriva makes his dwelling place. I long with eager heart to find that leader of the Vanner kind, for on that chief my hopes depend that this our quest have prosperous end. Thus Rama spoke, in battle tried, and thus Sumitra's son replied. Come, brother, come and speed away, my spirit brooks no more delay. Thus spake Sumitra's son, and then forth from the grove the king of men with his dear brother by his side to Pampa's lucid waters hied. He gazed upon the woods, where grew trees rich in flowers of every hue. From brake and dell on every side the curlew and the peacock cried, and flocks of screaming parrots made shrill music in the bloomy shade. His eager eyes, as on he went, on many a pool and tree were bent. Inflamed with love, he journeyed on, till a fair flood before him shone. He stood upon the water's side which streams from distant hills supplied, Matanga's name that water bore, there bathed he from the shelving shore. Then, each on earnest thoughts intent, still farther on their way they went. But Rama's heart once more gave way beneath his grief and wild dismay. Before him lay the noble flood adorned with many a lotus bud. On its fair banks Asoka glowed, and all bright trees their blossoms showed. Green banks that silver waves confined, with lovely groves, were fringed and lined. The crystal waters in their flow showed level sands that gleamed below. Their glittering fish and tortoise played, and bending trees gave pleasant shade. Their creepers on the branches, hung, with lover-like embraces clung. Their gay Gandharvas loved to meet, and Kinnars sought the calm retreat. There wandering Yakshas found delight, snake gods and rovers of the night. Cool were the pleasant waters, gay each tree with creeper, flower, and spray. There flushed the lotus darkly red, here their white glory lilies spread, here sweet buds showed their tints of blue, so carpets gleam with many a hue. A grove of mangoes blossomed nigh, echoing with the peacock's cry. When Rama by his brother's side the lovely flood of Pampa eyed, decked like a beauty, fair to see with every charm of flower and tree, his mighty heart with woe was rent, and thus he spoke in wild lament. Here Lakshman, a letter 1E47, on this beauteous shore, stands, dyed with tints of many an ore, the mountain Rishyamukha bright with flowery trees that crown each height. Sprung from the chief who, famed of yore, the name of Riksharajas bore, Sugriva, chieftain strong and dread, dwells on that mountain's towering head. Go to him, best of men, and seek that prince of Vanners on the peak. I cannot longer brook my pain, or, Sítá lost, my life retain. Thus by the pangs of love distressed, his thoughts on Sítá bent, his faithful brother he addressed, and cried in wild lament. He reached the lovely ground that lay on Pampa's wooded side, and told in anguish and dismay the grief he could not hide. With listless footsteps faint and slow his way the chief pursued, till Pampa with her glorious show of flowering woods he viewed. Through shades where every bird was found the prince with Lakshman, a letter 1E47 passed, and Pampa with her groves around burst on his eyes at last. Canto 77. The Gathering of the Ashes. The 10th day passed, the prince again was free from every legal stain. He bade them on the 12th the great remaining honor celebrate. Much gold he gave, and gems, and food to all the Brahmin multitude, and goats whose hair was white and fine, and many 1,000 head of kine, slaves, men and damsels he bestowed, and many a car and fair abode. Such gifts he gave the Brahmin race his father's obsequies to grace. Then when the morning's earliest ray appeared upon the 13th day, again the hero wept and sighed distraught and sorrow stupefied, drew, sobbing in his anguish, near the last remaining debt to clear, and at the bottom of the pyre he thus bespake his royal sire. O father, hast thou left me so, deserted in my friendless woe, when he to whom the charge was given to keep me, to the wood is driven. Her only son is forced away, who was his helpless mother's stay. Ah, whither, father, art thou fled, leaving the queen uncomforted? He looked upon the pile where lay the bones half burnt and ashes gray, and uttering a piteous moan, gave way, by anguish overthrown. Then as his tears began to well, prostrate to earth the hero fell, so from its seat the staff they drag, and cast to earth some glorious flag. The ministers approached again the prince whom rights had freed from stain, so when Ayodhyá fell, each seer in pity for his fate drew near. Satrugna saw him lying low o'erwhelmed beneath the crush of woe, and as upon the king he thought, he fell upon the earth distraught. When to his loving memory came those noble gifts, that kingly frame, he sorrowed by his woe distressed, as one by frenzied rage possessed. Ah me, this surging sea of woe has drowned us with its overflow. The source is Manthara, dire and dark, Kaikeyí is the ravening shark, and the great boons the monarch gave lend conquering might to every wave. Ah, whither wilt thou go, and leave thy burret in his woe to grieve, whomever 'twas thy greatest joy to fondle as a tender boy? Didst thou not give with thoughtful care our food, our drink, our robes to wear? Whose love will now for us provide, when thou, our king and sire, hast died? At such a time bereft, forlorn, why is not earth in sunder torn, missing her monarch's firm control, his love of right, his lofty soul? Ah me, for Rama roams afar, my sire is where the blessed are, how can I live deserted? Will pass into the fire and die. Abandoned thus, I will not brook upon Ayodhya's town to look, once guarded by Ikshvaku's race, the wood shall be my dwelling place. Then when the princes, mournful train, heard the sad brothers thus complain, and saw their misery, at the view their grief burst wilder out anew. Faint with lamenting, sad and worn each like a bull with broken horn, the brothers in their wild despair lay rolling, mad with misery, there. Then old V. a execute ish letter 1E60 H a good and true, their father's priest, all lore who knew raised weeping burret on his feet, and thus bespake with counsel meet. 12 days, my lord, have passed away since flames consumed thy father's clay. Delay no more. As rules ordain, gather what bones may yet remain. 3 constant pairs are ever found to hem all mortal creatures round. 354, then mourn not thus, O prince, for none their close companionship may shun. Sumantra bade Satrugna rise, and soothed his soul with counsel wise, and skilled in truth. His hearer taught how all things are and come to naught. When rose each hero from the ground, a lion lord of men, renowned, he showed like Indra's flag, 355, whereon fierce rains have dashed and suns have shone. They wiped their red and weeping eyes, and gently made their sad replies. Then, urged to haste, the royal pair performed the rites that claimed their care. Canto 78. Manthara punished. Satrugna thus to Burrit spake, who longed the forest road to take. He who in woe was wont to give strength to himself, and all that live, dear Rama, true and pure in heart, is banished by a woman's art. Yet here was Lakshman, a letter 1E47, brave and strong, could not his might prevent the wrong. Could not his arm the king restrain, or make the banished free again. One loving right and fearing crime had checked the monarch's sin in time, when, vassal of a woman's will, his feet approached the path of ill. While Lakshman, a letter 1E47's younger brother, dread Satrugna, thus to Burrit said, came to the fronting door, arrayed in glittering robes, the humpback maid. There she, with sandal oil besmeared, in garments meet for queens appeared, and luster to her form was lent by many a gem and ornament. She girdled with her broidered zone, and many a chain about her throne, showed like a female monkey round, whose body many a string is bound. When on that cause of evil fell the quick eye of the sentinel, he grasped her in his ruthless hold, and hastening in, Satrugna told, "Here is the wicked pest," he cried, "through whom the king thy father died, and Rama wanders in the wood. Do with her as thou deemest good." The warder spoke, and every word Satrugna's breast to fury stirred. He called the servants, all and each, and spake in wrath his hasty speech. "This is the wretch my sire who slew, and misery on my brothers drew. Let her this day obtain the meed, vile sinner, of her cruel deed." He spake, and moved by fury laid his mighty hand upon the maid, who, as her fellows ringed her round, made with her cries the hall resound. Soon as the gathered women viewed Satrugna in his angry mood, their hearts disturbed by sudden dread, they turned and from his presence fled. His rage, they cried, on us will fall, and ruthless he will slay us all. Come, to Kausalya let us flee. Our hope, our sure defense is she approved by all of virtuous mind, compassionate and good and kind. His eyes with burning wrath aglow, Satrugna, shatterer of the foe, dragged on the ground the humpback maid who shrieked aloud and screamed for aid. This way and that with no remorse he dragged her with resistless force, and chains and glittering trinkets burst lay here and there with gems dispersed, till like the sky of autumn shone the palace floor they sparkled on. The lord of men, supremely strong, hailed in his rage the wretch along, where Queen Kaikeyí dwelt he came, and sternly then addressed the dame. Deep in her heart Kaikeyí felt the stabs his keen reproaches dealt, and of Satrugna's ire afraid, to Bharat flew and cried for aid. He looked and saw the prince inflamed with burning rage, and thus exclaimed, "Forgive. Thine angry arm restrain, a woman never may be slain. My hand Kaikeyí's blood would spill, the sinner ever bent on ill, but Rama, long in duty tried, would hate the impious matricide. And if he knew thy vengeful blade had slaughtered e'en this humpback maid, never again, be sure, would he speak friendly word to thee or me." When Bharat's speech Satrugna heard, he calmed the rage his breast that stirred, releasing from her dire constraint the trembling wretch with terror faint. Then to Kaikeyí's feet she crept, and prostrate in her misery wept. Kaikeyí on the humpback gazed, and saw her weep and gasp, still quivering with her senses dazed from fierce Satrugna's grasp. With gentle words of pity she assuaged her wild despair, and, as a tender hand might free a curlew from the snare. Canto 79. Bharat's commands. Now when the sun's returning ray had ushered in the 14th day, the gathered peers of state addressed to Bharat's ear their new request. Our Lord to heaven has parted hence, long served with deepest reverence Rama, the eldest, far from home, and Lakshman a letter 1E47, in the forest roam. O Prince of mighty fame, be thou our guardian and our monarch now, lest secret plot or foeman's hate assail our unprotected state. With longing eyes, O Lord of men, to thee look friend and citizen, and ready is each sacred thing to consecrate our chosen king. Come, Bharat, and accept thine own ancient hereditary throne. Thee let the priests this day install as monarch to preserve us all. Around the sacred gear he bent his circling footsteps reverent, and, firm to vows he would not break, thus to the gathered people spake. The eldest son is ever king, so rules the house from which we spring, nor should ye, lords, like men unwise, with words like these to wrong advise. Rama is eldest born, and he the ruler of the land shall be. Now to the woods will I repair, 5 years and 9 to lodge me there. Assemble straight a mighty force, cars, elephants, and foot and horse, for I will follow on his track and bring my eldest brother back. Whate'er the rites of throning need placed on a car the way shall lead, the sacred vessels I will take to the wild wood for Rama's sake. I o'er the lion prince's head the sanctifying balm will shed, and bring him, as the fire they bring forth from the shrine, with triumphing. Nor will I let my mother's greed in this her cherished aim succeed. In pathless wilds will I remain, and Rama here as king shall reign. To make the rough ways smooth, and clear send workmen out and pioneer, let skillful men attend beside our way through pathless spots to guide. As thus the royal Bharat spake, ordaining all for Rama's sake, the audience gave with one accord auspicious answer to their lord. Be royal fortune I benign to thee for this good speech of thine, who wishest still than elders' hand to rule with kingly sway the land. Their glorious speech, their favoring cries made his proud bosom swell, and from the prince's noble eyes the tears of rapture fell. 356. Canto 80. The way prepared. All they who knew the joiner's art, or distant ground in every part, each busied in his several trade, to work machines or ply the spade, deft workmen skilled to frame the wheel, or with the ponderous engine deal, guides of the way and craftsmen skilled, to sink the well, make bricks, and build, and those whose hands the tree could hew, and work with slips of cut bamboo, went forward, and to guide them, they whose eyes before had seen the way. Then onward in triumphant mood went all the mighty multitude. like the great sea whose waves leap high when the full moon is in the sky. Then, in his proper duty skilled, each joined him to his several guild, and onward in advance they went with every tool and implement. Where bush and tangled creeper lay with trenchant steel, they made the way, they felled each stump, removed each stone, and many a tree was overthrown. In other spots, on desert lands, tall trees were reared by busy hands. Where'er the line of road they took, they plied the hatchet, axe, and hook. Others, with all their strength applied, cast vigorous plants and shrubs aside, in shelving valleys rooted deep, and leveled every dale and steep. Each pit and hole that stopped the way they filled with stones, and mud, and clay, and all the ground that rose and fell with busy care was leveled well. They bridged ravines with ceaseless toil, and pounded fine the flinty soil. Now here, now there, to right and left, a passage through the ground they cleft. And soon the rushing flood was led abundant through the new-cut bed, which by the running stream supplied with ocean's boundless waters vied. In dry and thirsty spots, they sank full many a well and ample tank, and altars round about them placed to deck the station in the waste. With well-wrought plaster smoothly spread, with bloomy trees that rose o'erhead, with banners waving in the air, and wild birds singing here and there, with fragrant sandal-water wet, with many a flower beside it set, like the gods, heavenly pathway showed that mighty hosts' imperial road. Deft workmen, chosen for their skill to do the high-souled Burritt's will, in every pleasant spot where grew trees of sweet fruit and fair to view, as he commanded, twalled to grace with all delights his camping place. And they who read the stars, and well each lucky sign and hour could tell, raised carefully the tented shade wherein high-minded Burritt stayed. With ample space of level ground, with broad deep moat encompassed round, like Mandar in his towering pride, with streets that ran from side to side, enwreathed with many a palace tall surrounded by its noble wall, with roads by skillful workmen made, where many a glorious banner played, with stately mansions, where the dove sat nestling in her cote above. Rising aloft supremely fair like heavenly cars that float in air, each camp in beauty and in bliss matched Indra's own metropolis. As shines the heaven on some fair night, with moon and constellations filled, the prince's royal road was bright adorned by art of workmen skilled. Canto 81. The Assembly. Ere yet the dawn had ushered in the day should see the march begin, herald and bard who rightly knew each nice degree of honor due, their loud auspicious voices raised, and royal Burritt blessed and praised. With sticks of gold the drum they smote, which thundered out its deafening note, blew loud the sounding shell, and blent each high and low-toned instrument. The mingled sound of drum and horn through all the air was quickly borne, and as in Burritt's ear it rang, gave the sad prince another pang. Then Burritt, starting from repose, stilled the glad sounds that round him rose. "I am not king, no more mistake." Then to Satrugna thus he spake, "Oh, see what general wrongs succeed sprung from Kaikeyí's evil deed. The king my sire has died, and thrown fresh miseries on me alone. The royal bliss, on duty based, which our just high-souled father graced, wanders in doubt and sore distress like a tossed vessel rudderless. And he who was our lordly stay roams in the forest far away, expelled by this my mother, who to duty's law is most untrue." As royal Burritt thus gave vent to bitter grief in wild lament, gazing upon his face, the crowd of pitying women wept aloud. His lamentation scarce was o'er, when Saint V. A. Execute Ish letter 1E60H, skilled in lore of royal duty, dear to fame, to join the great assembly came. Girt by disciples ever true still nearer to that hall he drew, resplendent, heavenly to behold, adorned with wealth of gems and gold, and so a man in duty tried draws near to meet his virtuous bride. He reached his golden seat o'erlaid with coverlet of rich brocade, there sat, in all the Vedas read, and called the messengers and said, "Go forth, let Brahmin, warrior, peer, and every captain gather here. Let all attentive hither throng, go, hasten, we delay too long. Satrugna, glorious Burritt bring, the noble children of the king, 357 Ayodhyá, 358, and Sumantra, all the truthful and the virtuous call." He ended. Soon a mighty sound of thickening tumult rose around, as to the hall they bent their course with car, and elephant, and horse. The people all with glad acclaim welcomed Prince Burritt as he came. and as they loved their king to greet, or as the gods Lord Indra, 359 meet. The vast assembly shone as fair with Bharat's kingly face as Dasaratha's self were there to glorify the place. It gleamed like some unruffled lake where monsters huge of mold with many a snake their pastime take o'er shells, sand, gems, and gold. Canto 82. The Departure. The prudent prince the assembly viewed thronged with its noble multitude, resplendent as a cloudless night when the full moon is in his height, while robes of every varied hue a glory o'er the synod threw. The priest in lore of duty skilled looked on the crowd the hall that filled, and then in accents soft and grave to Bharat thus his counsel gave. The king, dear son, so good and wise, has gone from earth and gained the skies, leaving to thee, her rightful lord, this rich wide land with foison stored. And still has faithful Rama stood firm to the duty of the good, and kept his father's hest aright, as the moon keeps its own dear light. Thus sire and brother yield to thee this realm from all annoyance free, rejoice thy lords. Enjoy thine own anointed king, ascend the throne. Let vassal princes hasten forth from distant lands, west, south, and north from Kerala, 360 from every sea, and bring 10 million gems to thee. As thus the sage V. A. execute ISH letter 1E60 H. A spoke, a storm of grief o'er Bharat broke. And longing to be just and true, his thoughts to duteous Rama flew. With sobs and sighs and broken tones, and as a wounded mallard moans, he mourned with deepest sorrow moved, and thus the holy priest reproved. Oh, how can such as Bharat dare the power and sway from him to tear, wise and devout and true and chaste, with scripture lore and virtue graced? Can one of Dasaratha's seed be guilty of so vile a deed? The realm and I are Rama's, thou shouldst speak the words of justice now. For he, to claims of virtue true, is eldest born and noblest too. Nahush, Dilipa could not be more famous in their lives than he. As Dasaratha ruled of right, so Rama, is the power and right. If I should do this sinful deed, and forfeit hope of heavenly meed, my guilty act would dim the shine of old Ikshvaku's glorious line. Nay, as the sin my mother wrought is grievous to my inmost thought, I here, my hands together laid, will greet him in the pathless shade. To Rama shall my steps be bent, my king, of men most excellent, Raghu's illustrious son, whose sway might hell and earth and heaven obey. That righteous speech, whose every word bore virtue's stamp, the audience heard. On Rama every thought was set, and with glad tears each eye was wet. Then, if the power I still should lack to bring my noble brother back, I in the wood will dwell, and share his banishment with a k shm, a letter 1E47 there. By every art persuasive, to bring him from the wood will try, and show him to your loving eyes, O Brahmins noble, good, and wise. E'en now, the road to make and clear, each laborer pressed, and pioneer have I sent forward to precede the army I resolve to lead. Thus by fraternal love possessed, his firm resolve the prince expressed, then to Sumantra, deeply read in holy texts, he turned and said, Sumantra, rise without delay, and as I bid my words obey. Give orders for the march with speed, and all the army hither laid. The wise Sumantra, thus addressed, obeyed the high-souled chief's behest. He hurried forth with joy inspired, and gave the orders he desired. Delight each soldier's bosom filled, and through each chief and captain thrilled, to hear that march proclaimed, to bring dear Rama back from wandering. From house to house the tidings flew, each soldier's wife the order knew, and as she listened blithe and gay her husband urged to speed away. Captain and soldier soon declared the host equipped, and all prepared with chariots matching thought for speed, and wagons drawn by ox and steed. When Bharat by V. A. execute, ISH letter 1E60 H. A. S. side, his ready host of warriors eyed, thus in Sumantra's ear he spoke, My car and horses quickly yoke. Sumantra hastened to fulfill with ready joy his master's will, and quickly with the chariot sped drawn by fleet horses nobly bred. Then glorious Bharat, true, devout, whose genuine valor none could doubt, gave in fit words his order out, for he would seek the shade of the great distant wood, and there win his dear brother with his prayer. Sumantra, haste. I will declare the host be all arrayed. I to the wood my way will take, to Rama supplication make, and for the world's advantage sake, will lead him home again. Then, ordered thus, the charioteer who listened with delighted ear, went forth and gave his orders clear to captains of the train. He gave the popular chiefs the word, and with the news his friends he stirred, and not a single man deferred preparing for the road. Then Brahmin, warrior, merchant, thrall obedient to Sumantra's call, each in his house arose, and all yoked elephant or camel tall, or ass or noble steed in stall, and full appointed showed. Canto 83. The journey begun. Then Bharat rose at early morn, and in his noble chariot borne drove forward at a rapid pace, eager to look on Rama's face. The priests and lords, a fair array in sun-bright chariots, led the way. Behind, a well-appointed throng, 9,000 elephants streamed along. Then 60,000 cars, and then with various arms came fighting men. 100,000 archers showed in lengthened line the steeds they rode, a mighty host, the march to grace of Bharat, pride of Raghu's race. Kaikeyí and Sumatra came, and good Kausalya, dear to fame. By hopes of Rama's coming cheered they in a radiant car appeared. On fared the noble host to see Rama and Lakshman, a letter 1E47, wild with glee, and still each other's ear to please of Rama spoke in words like these. When shall our happy eyes behold our hero true, and pure, and bold, so lustrous dark, so strong of arm, who keeps the world from woe and harm? The tears that now our eyeballs dim will vanish at the sight of him, as the whole world's black shadows fly when the bright sun ascends the sky. Conversing thus their way pursued the city's joyous multitude, and each in mutual rapture pressed a friend or neighbor to his breast. Thus every man of high renown, and every merchant of the town, and leading subjects, joyous went toward Rama in his banishment. And those who worked the potter's wheel, and artists skilled in gems to deal, and masters of the weaver's art, and those who shaped the sword and dart, and they who golden trinkets made, and those who plied the fuller's trade, and servants trained the bath to heat, and they who dealt in incense sweet, physicians in their business skilled, and those who wine and mead distilled, and workmen deft in glass who wrought, and those whose snares the peacock caught with them who bored the ear for rings, or sawed, or fashioned ivory things. And those who knew to mix cement, or lived by sale of precious scent, and men who washed, and men who sewed, and thralls who mid the herds abode, and fishers of the flood, and they who played and sang, and women gay, and virtuous Brahmins, scripture-wise of life approved in all men's eyes. These swelled the prince's lengthened train, borne each in car or bullock wain. Fair were the robes they wore upon their limbs, where red-hued unguents shone. These all in various modes conveyed their journey after Bharat made. The soldiers, hearts with rapture glowed, following Bharat on his road, their chief whose tender love would fain bring his dear brother home again. With elephant and horse and car, the vast procession traveled far, and came where Ganga's waves below the town of Sringavara, 361, flow. There, with his friends and kinsmen nigh, dwelt Gyuha, Rama's dear ally, heroic guardian of the land with dauntless heart and ready hand. There for a while the mighty force that followed Bharat stayed its course, gazing on Ganga's bosom, stirred by many a graceful water-bird. When Bharat viewed his followers there, and Ganga's water blessed and fair, the prince, who lore of words possessed, his counselors and lords addressed. The captains of the army call, proclaim this day a halt for all, that so tomorrow rested we may cross this flood that seeks the sea. Meanwhile, descending to the shore, the funeral stream I fain would pour from Ganga's fair auspicious tide to him, my father glorified. Thus Bharat spoke. Each peer and lord approved his words with one accord, and bade the weary troops repose in separate spots where'er they chose. There by the mighty stream that day, most glorious in its vast array, the prince's wearied army lay in various groups reclined. There Bharat's hours of night were spent, while every eager thought he bent on bringing home from banishment his brother, great of mind. Canto 84. Gyuha's anger. King Gyuha saw the host spread o'er the wide expanse of Ganga's shore, with waving flag and pennon graced, and to his followers spoke in haste. A mighty army meets my eyes, that rivals ocean's self in size. Where'er I look my very mind no limit to the host can find. Sure Bharat with some evil thought his army to our land has brought. See, huge of form, his flag he rears, that like an ebony tree appears. He comes with bonds to take and chain, or triumph o'er our people slain, and after Rama will he slay. Him whom his father drove away, the power complete he longs to gain, and task too hard, usurp the reign. So Bharat comes with wicked, will his brother Rama's blood to spill. But Rama's slave and friend am I, he is my lord and dear ally. Keep here your watch and arms arrayed near Ganga's flood, to lend him aid, and let my gathered servants stand and line with troops the river strand. Here let the river keepers meet, who flesh and roots and berries eat, 100 fishers man each boat of the 500 here afloat, and let the youthful and the strong assemble in defensive throng. But yet if, free from guilty thought, gainst Rama, he this land have sought, the prince's happy host today across the flood shall make its way. He spoke, then bearing in a dish a gift of honey, meat, and fish, the king of the Nishadas drew toward Bharat for an interview. When Bharat's noble charioteer observed the monarch hastening near, he duly, skilled in courteous lore, the tidings to his master bore. This aged prince who hither bends his footsteps with 1,000 friends, knows, firm ally of Rama, all that may in D a letter 1E47 letter 1E0D a K would befall. Therefore, Kakut's the son, admit the monarch, as is right and fit, for doubtless he can clearly tell where Rama now and L a K SHM, a letter 1E47 dwell. When Bharat heard Sumantra's read, to his fair words the prince agreed. Go quickly forth, he cried, and bring before my face the aged king. King Gyuha, with his kinsmen near, rejoiced the summoning to hear. He nearer drew, bowed low his head, and thus to royal Bharat said, No mansions can our country boast, and unexpected comes thy host, but what we have I give thee all, rest in the lodging of thy thrall. See, the Nishadas here have brought the fruit and roots their hands have sought, and we have woodland fare beside, and store of meat both fresh and dried. To rest their weary limbs, I pray this night at least thy host may stay. Then cheered with all we can bestow tomorrow thou with it mayst go. Canto 85. Gyuha and Bharat. Thus the Nishadas king besought. The prince with spirit wisdom fraught replied in seemly words that blent deep matter with the argument. Thou, friend of him whom I revere, with honors high hast met me here, for thou alone wouldst entertain and feed today so vast a train. In such fair words the prince replied, then, pointing to the path he cried, Which way aright will lead my feet to Bharadvaja's calm retreat, for all this land near Ganga's streams pathless and hard to traverse seems. Thus spoke the prince. King Gyuha heard, delighted every prudent word, and gazing on that forest wide, raised suppliant hands and thus replied. My servants, all the ground who know, O glorious prince, with thee shall go with constant care thy way to guide, and I will journey by thy side. But this thy host so wide dispread wakes in my heart one doubt and dread, lest, threatening Rama good and great, ill thoughts thy journey stimulate. But when King Gyuha, ill at ease, declared his fear in words like these, as pure as is the cloudless sky, with soft voice Bharat made reply, Suspect me not. Ne'er come the time for me to plot so foul a crime. He is my eldest brother, he is like a father dear to me. I go to lead my brother thence, who makes the wood his residence. No thought but this thy heart should frame, this simple truth my lips proclaim. Then with glad cheer King Gyuha cried, with Bharat's answer gratified. Blessed art thou. On earth I see none who may vie, O prince, with thee, who canst of thy free will resign the kingdom which unsought is thine. For this, a name that ne'er shall die, thy glory through the worlds shall fly, who fain wouldst balm thy brother's pain and lead the exile home again. As Gyuha thus and Bharat, each to other spoke in friendly speech, the day god sank with glory dead, and night o'er all the sky was spread. Soon as King Gyuha's thoughtful care had quartered all the army there, well honored, Bharat laid his head beside Satrugna on a bed. But grief for Rama, yet oppressed high-minded Bharat's faithful breast. Such torment little was deserved by him who ne'er from duty swerved. The fever raged through every vein and burnt him with its inward pain. So, when in woods the flames leap free, the fire within consumes the tree. From heat of burning, anguish sprung, the sweat upon his body hung, as when the sun with fervid glow on high Himalaya melts the snow. As, banished from the herd, a bull wanders alone and sorrowful. Thus sighing and distressed, in misery and bitter grief, with fevered heart that mocked relief, distracted in his mind, the chief still mourned and found no rest. Canto 86. Gyuha's speech. Gyuha the king, acquainted well with all that in the wood befell, to Burrit the unequaled told the tale of Lakshman a letter 147 mighty souled. With many an earnest word I spake to Lakshman a letter 147 as he stayed awake, and with his bow and shaft in hand to guard his brother kept his stand. Now sleep a little, Lakshman a letter 147. See this pleasant bed is strewn for thee. Hereon thy weary body lay, and strengthen thee with rest. I pray inured to toil are men like these, but thou hast been nursed in ease. Rest duteous-minded. I will keep my watch while Rama lies asleep, for in the whole wide world is none dearer to me than Raghu's son. Harbor no doubt or jealous fear. I speak the truth with heart sincere, for from the grace which he has shown will glory on my name be thrown. Great store of merit shall I gain, and duteous, form no wish in vain. Let me enforced by many a row of followers, armed with shaft and bow for well-loved Rama's weal provide, who lies asleep by Sita's side. For through this wood I often go, and all its shades conceal I know, and we with conquering arms can meet a fourfold host arrayed complete. With words like these I spoke, designed to move the high-souled Burrit's mind, but he upon his duty bent, plied his persuasive argument. Oh, how can slumber close mine eyes when lowly couched with Sita lies the royal Rama? Can I give my heart to joy, or even live? He whom no mighty demon, no nor heavenly god can overthrow, see Gyuha how he lies, alas, with Sita couched on gathered grass. By varied labors, long, severe, by many a prayer and rite austere, he, Dasaratha's cherished son, by fortune stamped from heaven was won. Now as his son is forced to fly, the king ere long will surely die, reft of his guardian hand, forlorn in widowed grief this land will mourn. E'en now perhaps, with toil o'erspent, the women cease their loud lament, and cries of woe no longer ring throughout the palace of the king. But for sad Ayodhyá. How fares she and mine own mother now? How fares the king? This night, I think, some of the three in death will sink. With hopes upon Satragna set my mother may survive as yet, but the sad queen will die who bore the hero, for her grief is sore. His cherished wish that would have made dear Rama king, so long delayed, too late. Too late, the king will cry, and conquered by his misery die. When fate has brought the mournful day, which sees my father pass away, how happy in their lives are they allowed his funeral rites to pay. Our exile o'er, with him who ne'er turns from the oath his lips may swear, may we returning safe and well gain in fair Ayodhyá dwell. Thus Burrit stood with many a sigh lamenting, and the night went by. Soon as the morning light shone fair in votive coils, both bound their hair. And then I sent them safely o'er, and left them on the farther shore. With Sita then they onward passed, their coats of bark about them cast, their locks like hermits bound. The mighty tamers of the foe each with his arrows and his bow went over the rugged ground, proud in their strength and undeterred like elephants that lead the herd, and gazing oft around. Canto 87. Gyuha's story. That speech of Gyuha Burrit heard with grief and tender pity stirred, and as his ears the story drank, deep in his thoughtful heart it sank. His large full eyes in anguish rolled, his trembling limbs grew stiff and cold, then fell he, like a tree uptorn in woe too grievous to be borne. When Gyuha saw the long-armed chief whose eye was like a lotus leaf, with lion shoulders strong and fair, high-mettled, prostrate in despair, pale, bitterly afflicted, he reeled as in earthquake reels a tree. But when Satragna standing nigh saw his dear brother helpless lie, distraught with woe his head he bowed, embraced him oft and wept aloud. Then Burrit's mothers came, forlorn of their dear king, with fasting worn, and stood with weeping eyes around the hero prostrate on the ground. Ayodhyá, by her woe oppressed, the senseless Burrit's limbs caressed, as a fond cow in love and fear caresses oft her youngling deer. Then yielding to her woe she said, weeping and sore disquieted, "What torments, O my son, are these of sudden pain or swift disease? The lives of us and all the line depend, dear child, on only thine. Rama and Lakshman, a letter 147 forced to flee. I live by naught but seeing thee, for as the king has passed away thou art my only help today. Hast thou, perchance, heard evil news of Lakshman, a letter 147, which thy soul subdues, or Rama dwelling with his spouse. My all is he 'neath forest boughs. Then slowly gathering sense and strength, the weeping hero rose at length, and words like these to Gyuha spake, that bade Kausalya comfort take, where lodged the prince that night. And where Lakshman, a letter 147 the brave, and Sítá fair. Show me the couch whereon he lay, tell me the food he ate, I pray. Then Gyuha the Nishadas, king replied to Bharat's questioning. Of all I had I brought the best to serve my good and honored guest, food of each varied kind I chose, and every fairest fruit that grows. Rama the hero truly brave declined the gift I humbly gave, his warrior part he ne'er forgot, and what I brought accepted not. No gifts, my friend, may we accept, our law is give and must be kept. The high-souled chief, O monarch, thus with gracious words persuaded us. Then calm and still, absorbed in thought, he drank the water Lakshman, a letter 147 brought, and then, obedient to his vows, he fasted with his gentle spouse. So Lakshman, a letter 147 too from food abstained, and sipped the water that remained. Then with ruled lips, devoutly stayed, the 362 their evening worship paid. Then Lakshman, a letter 147 with unwearied care brought heaps of sacred grass, and there with his own hands he quickly spread, for Rama's rest, a pleasant bed, and faithful Sítá, S2, where they reclining each by other lay. Then Lakshman, a letter 147 bathed their feet, and drew a little distance from the two. Here stands the tree which lent them shade, here is the grass beneath it laid, where Rama and his consort spent the night together ere they went. Lakshman, a letter 147, whose arms the foeman quell, watched all the night as sentinel, and kept his great bow strung, his hand was gloved, his arm was braced, 2 well-filled quivers at his waist, with deadly arrows hung. I took my shafts and trusty bow, and with that tamer of the foe stood ever wakeful near, and with my followers, bow in hand, behind me ranged, a ready band, kept watch o'er Indra's pier. Canto 88. The Anguri Tree. When Bharat with each friend and peer had heard that tale so full and clear, they went together to the tree the bed which Rama pressed to see. Then Bharat to his mother said, Behold the high-souled hero's bed, these tumbled heaps of grass betray where he that night with Sítá lay, unmeet, the heir of fortune high thus on the cold bare earth should lie, the monarch's son, in council sage, of old imperial lineage. That lion-lord whose noble bed with finest skins of deer was spread, how can he now endure to press the bare earth, cold and comfortless? This sudden fall from bliss to grief appears untrue, beyond belief, my senses are distraught, I seem to view the fancies of a dream. There is no deity so great, no power in heaven can master fate. If Rama, Dasaratha's heir, lay on the ground and slumbered there, and lovely Sítá, she who springs from fair Vidha's ancient kings, Rama's dear wife, by all adored, lay on the earth beside her lord. Here was his couch. Upon this heap he tossed and turned in restless sleep. On the hard soil each manly limb has stamped the grass with signs of him. That night, it seems, fair Sítá spent arrayed in every ornament, for here and there my eyes behold small particles of glistering gold. She laid her outer garment here, for still some silken threads appear. How dear in her devoted eyes must be the bed where Rama lies, where she so tender could repose, and by his side forget her woes. Alas, unhappy, guilty me! For whom the prince was forced to flee, and chief of Raghu's sons and best, a bed like this with Sítá pressed. Son of a royal sire whose hand ruled paramount o'er every land, could he who every joy bestows, whose body like the lotus shows, the friend of all who charms the sight, whose flashing eyes are darkly bright, leave the dear kingdom, his by right, unmeet for woe, the heir of bliss, and lie upon a bed like this? Great joy and happy fate are thine, O Lakshman, a letter 147, marked with each fair sign, whose faithful footsteps follow still thy brother in his hour of ill. And blessed is Sítá, nobly good, who dwells with Rama in the wood. Ours is, alas, a doubtful fate of Rama reft and desolate. My royal sire has gained the skies, in woods the high-souled hero lies. The state is wrecked and tempest-tossed, a vessel with her rudder lost. Yet none in secret thought has planned with hostile might to seize the land, though forced in distant wilds to dwell. The hero's arm protects it well. Unguarded, with deserted wall, no elephant or steed in stall, my father's royal city shows her portals open to her foes, of bold protectors reft and bare, defenseless in her dark despair. But still her foes the wish restrain as men from poisoned cates refrain. I from this hour my nights will pass couched on the earth or gathered grass, eat only fruit and roots, and wear a coat of bark and matted hair. I in the woods will pass, content, for him the term of banishment, so shall I still unbroken save the promise which the hero gave. While I remain for Rama there, Satrugna will my exile share, and Rama in his home again, with Lakshm a letter 1E47, o'er Ayodhyá reign for him, to rule and guard the state, the twice-born men shall consecrate. Oh, may the gods I serve incline to grant this earnest wish of mine. If when I bow before his feet and with all moving arts entreat, he still deny my prayer, then with my brother will I live, he must permission give roaming in forests there. Canto 89. The Passage of Ganga. That night the son of Raghu lay on Ganga's bank till break of day. Then with the earliest light he woke, and thus to brave Satrugna spoke. Rise up, Satrugna, from thy bed, why sleepest thou, the night is fled? See how the sun who chases night wakes every lotus with his light. Arise, arise, and first of all the Lord of Sringavara call, for he his friendly aid will lend our army o'er the flood to send. Thus urged, Satrugna answered, I, remembering Rama, sleepless lie. As thus the brothers, each to each, the lion-mettled ended speech came Gyuha, the Nishada's king, and spoke with kindly questioning. Hast thou in comfort passed, he cried, the night upon the river side? With thee how fares it? And are these thy soldiers healthy and at ease? Thus the Nishada's lord inquired in gentle words which love inspired, and Bharat, Rama's faithful slave, thus to the king his answer gave. The night has sweetly passed, and we are highly honored, king, by thee. Now let thy servants' boats prepare, our army o'er the stream to bear. The speech of Bharat Gyuha heard, and swift to do his bidding stirred. Within the town the monarch sped, and to his ready kinsmen said, Awake, each kinsman, rise, each friend. May every joy your lives attend. Gather each boat upon the shore, and ferry all the army o'er. Thus Gyuha spoke, nor they delayed, but rising quick their lord obeyed, and soon from every side secured 500 boats were ready moored. Some reared aloft the mystic sign, 363, and mighty bells were hung in line. Of firmest build, gay flags they bore, and sailors for the helm and oar. One such King Gyuha chose, whereon, of fair white cloth, an awning shone, and sweet musicians charmed the ear, and bade his servants urge it near. Then Bharat swiftly sprang on board, and then Satrugna, famous lord, to whom, with many a royal dame, Kausalya and Sumitra came. The household priest went first in place, the elders, and the Brahmin race, and after them the monarch's train of women born in many a wain. Then high to heaven the shouts of those who fired the army's huts, 364 arose, with theirs who bathed along the shore, or to the boats the baggage bore. Full freighted with that mighty force the boats sped swiftly on their course, by royal Gyuha's servants manned, and gentle gales the banners fanned. Some boats a crowd of dames conveyed, in others noble coursers neighed, some chariots and their cattle bore, some precious wealth and golden store. Across the stream each boat was rowed, there duly disembarked its load, and then returning on its way, sped here and there in merry play. Then swimming elephants appeared with flying pennons high upreared, and as the drivers urged them o'er, the look of winged mountains wore. Some men in barges reached the strand, others on rafts came safe to land. Some buoyed with pitchers crossed the tide, and others on their arms relied. Thus with the help the monarch gave the army crossed pure Ganga's wave. Then in auspicious hour it stood within Prayaga's famous wood. The prince with cheering words addressed his weary men, and bade them rest where they chose, and he, with priest and deacon by his side, to Bharadvaja's dwelling hied that best of saints to see. Canto 90. The Hermitage. The prince of men a league away saw where the hermit's dwelling lay, then with his lords his path pursued, and left his warrior multitude. On foot, as duty taught his mind, he left his warlike gear behind, 2 robes of linen cloth he wore, and bade V a execute ish letter 160 h a walk before. Then Burrit from his lords withdrew when Bharadvaja came in view, and toward the holy hermit went behind V a execute ish letter 160 h a reverent. When Bharadvaja, saint austere, saw good V a execute ish letter 160 h a drawing near, he cried, upspringing from his seat, "The grace gift bring, my friend to greet." When Saint V a execute ish letter 160 h a near him drew, and Burrit paid the reverence due, the glorious hermit was aware that Dasaratha's son was there. The grace gift, water for their feet he gave, and offered fruit to eat. Then, duty-skilled, with friendly speech in seemly order questioned each, "How fares it in Ayodhyá now with treasury and army? How with kith and kin and friends most dear, with counselor and prince and peer?" But, for he knew the king was dead, of Dasaratha naught he said. V a execute ish letter 160 h, and the prince in turn would of the hermit's welfare learn. Of holy fires they fain would hear, of pupils, trees, and birds and deer. The glorious saint his answer made that all was well in holy shade. Then love of Rama moved his breast, and thus he questioned of his guest, "Why art thou here, O prince, whose band with kingly sway protects the land? Declare the cause, explain the whole, for yet some doubt disturbs my soul." He whom Kausalya bare, whose might the foeman slays, his lines delight. He who with wife and brother sent afar now roam in banishment, famed prince, to whom his father spake this order for a woman's sake: "Away, and in the forest spend thy life till 14 years shall end. Has thou the wish to harm him, bent on sin against the innocent? Wouldst thou thine elder's realm enjoy, without a thorn that can annoy?" With sobbing voice and tearful eye thus Burrit sadly made reply: "Ah, lost am I, if thou, O saint, canst thus in thought my heart attaint. No warning charge from thee I need, ne'er could such crime from me proceed. The words my guilty mother spake when fondly jealous for my sake. Think not that I, to triumph moved, those words approve or e'er approved. O hermit, I have sought this place to win the lordly hero's grace, to throw me at my brother's feet, and lead him to his royal seat. To this my journey's aim and end, thou shouldst, O saint, thy favor lend. Where is the Lord of earth? Do thou, most holy, say, where roams he now?" Then, by the Saint V a execute ish letter 160 h oppressed, and all the gathered priests beside, to Burrit's dutiful request the hermit graciously replied: "Worthy of thee, O prince, this deed, true son of Raghu's ancient seed. I know thee reverent, well controlled, the glory of the good of old. I grant thy prayer, in this pursuit I know thy heart is resolute. Tease for thy sake those words, I said that wider still thy fame may spread. I know where Rama, duty tried, his brother and his wife abide. Where Chitr a Ku acute letter 160, a S heights, arise thy brother Rama's dwelling lies. Go thither with the morning's light, and stay with all thy lords tonight, for I would show thee honor high, and do not thou my wish deny." Canto 91. Bharadvaja's Feast. Soon as he saw the prince's mind to rest that day, was well inclined. He sought Kaikeyí's son to please with hospitable courtesies. Then Burrit to the saint replied, "Our wants are more than satisfied. The gifts which honored strangers greet, and water for our weary feet haste thou bestowed with friendly care, and every choice of woodland fair." Then Bharadvaja spoke, a smile playing upon his lips the while: "I know, dear prince, thy friendly mind will any fare sufficient find, but gladly would I entertain and banquet all thine armed train. Such is my earnest wish. Do thou this longing of my heart allow. Why hast thou hither bent thy way, and made thy troops behind thee stay? Why unattended? Couldst thou not with friends and army seek this spot?" Burrit, with reverent hands raised high, to that great hermit made reply: "My troops, for awe of thee, O sage, I brought not to thy hermitage. Troops of a king or monarch's son a hermit's home should ever shun. Behind me comes a mighty train wide spreading o'er the ample plain, where every chief and captain leads men, elephants, and mettled steeds. I feared, O reverend sage, lest these might harm the holy ground and trees, springs might be marred and cots o'erthrown. So with the priests I came alone." "Bring all thy host," the hermit cried, and Burrit to his joy complied. Then to the chapel went the sire, where ever burnt the sacred fire, And first, in order due, with sips of water purified his lips, to Visvakarma then he prayed, his hospitable feast to aid. Let Visvakarma hear my call, the god who forms and fashions all, a mighty banquet I provide, be all my wants this day supplied. Lord Indra at their head, the 365, who guard the worlds I call to me, a mighty host this day I feed, be now supplied my every need. Let all the streams that eastward go, and those whose waters westering flow, both on the earth and in the sky, flow hither and my wants supply. Be some with ardent liquor filled, and some with wine from flowers distilled, while some their fresh cool streams retain sweet as the juice of sugar cane. I call the gods, I call the band of minstrels that around them stand. I call the ha-ha and hoo-hoo, I call the sweet Visvavasu, I call the heavenly wives of these with all the bright apsarases, Alimbusha of beauty rare. The charmer of the tangled hair, Jihratachi and Visvachi fair, Hema and Bama sweet to view, and lovely Nagadanta too, and all the sweetest nymphs who stand by Indra or by Brahma's hand. I summon these with all their train and tumburu to lead the strain. Here let Kuvera's garden rise which far in northern Kuru, 366, lies, for leaves let cloth and gems entwine, and let its fruit be nymphs divine. Let Soma, 367, give the noblest food to feed the mighty multitude, of every kind, for tooth and lip, to chew, to lick, to suck and sip. Let wreaths, where fairest flowers abound, spring from the trees that bloom around. Each sort of wine to woo the taste, and meats of every kind be placed. Thus spake the hermit self-restrained, with proper tone by rules ordained, on deepest meditation bent, in holy might preeminent. Then, as with hands in reverence, raised, absorbed in thought he eastward gazed, the deities he thus addressed came each in semblance manifest. Delicious gales that cooled the frame from Malaya and Dardar came, that kissed those scented hills, and threw auspicious fragrance where they blew. Then falling fast in sweetest showers, came from the sky immortal flowers, and all the airy region round with heavenly drums was made to sound. Then breathed a soft celestial breeze, then danced the bright apsarases, the minstrels and the gods advanced, and warbling lutes the soul entranced. The earth and sky that music filled, and through each ear it softly thrilled, as from the heavenly quills it fell with time and tune attempered well. Soon as the minstrels ceased to play and airs celestial died away, the troops of Bharat saw amazed what Visvakarma's art had raised. On every side, 5 leagues around, all smooth and level lay the ground, with fresh green grass that charmed the sight like sapphires blent with lazulite. There the wood apple hung its load, the mango and the citron glowed, the bell and scented jack were there, and apila with fruitage fair. There, brought from northern Kuru, stood rich in delights, the glorious wood, and many a stream was seen to glide with flowering trees along its side. Their mansions rose with 4 wide halls, and elephants and chargers, stalls, and many a house of royal state, triumphal arch and bannered gate. With noble doorways, sought the sky like a pale cloud, a palace high, which far and wide rare fragrance shed, with wreaths of white engarlanded. Square was its shape, its halls were wide, with many a seat and couch supplied, drink of all kinds, and every meat such as celestial gods might eat. Then at the bidding of the seer Kaikeyí's strong-armed son drew near, and passed within that fair abode which, with the noblest jewels glowed. Then, as via execute ISH letter 1E60H led the way, the counselors, in due array, followed delighted and amazed, and on the glorious structure gazed. Then Bharat, Raghu's son, drew near the kingly throne, with prince and peer, whereby the chowry in the shade of the white canopy was laid. Before the throne he humbly bent and honored Rama, reverent, then in his hand the chowry bore, and sat where sits a counselor. His ministers and household priest sat by degrees from chief to least, then sat the captain of the host, and all the men he honored most. Then, when the saint his order gave, each river with enchanted wave rolled milk, and curds divinely sweet before the princely Bharat's feet, and dwellings fair on either side, with gay white plaster beautified, their heavenly roofs were seen to lift, the Brahman Bharadvaja's gift. Then straight by Lord Kuvera sent, gay with celestial ornament of bright attire and jewels, shine, came 20,000 nymphs divine. The man on whom those beauties glanced that moment felt his soul entranced. With them from Nandan's blissful shades came 20,000 heavenly maids. Tumburu, Narad, Gopa came, and Sutanu, like radiant flame, the kings of the Gandharva throng, and ravished Bharat with their song. Then spoke the saint, and swift obeyed Alambusha, the fairest maid, and Misraxi bright to view, Ram a letter 1E47 A, Pu letter 1E47 letter 1E0D R I acute K A2, and danced to him with graceful ease the dances of apsarases. All chaplets that by gods are worn, or Chaiturathas graves adorn, bloomed by the saint's command arrayed on branches in Prayaga's shade. When at the saint's command the breeze made music with the vilva trees, to wave in rhythmic beat began the boughs of each myrobalan, and holy fig trees wore the look of dancers as their leaflets shook. The fair tamala, palm and pine, with trees that tower and plants that twine, the sweetly varying forms displayed of stately dame or bending maid. Here men the foaming wine-cup quaffed, here drank of milk full many a draught, and tasted meats of every kind, well dressed, whatever pleased their mind. Then beauteous women, 7 or 8, stood ready by each man to wait. Beside the stream his limbs they stripped, and in the cooling water dipped. And then the fair ones, sparkling-eyed, with soft hands rubbed his limbs and dried, and sitting on the lovely bank held up the wine-cup as he drank. Nor did the grooms forget to feed camel and mule and ox and steed, for there were stores of roasted grain, of honey, and of sugar cane. So fast the wild excitement spread among the warriors Bharat led, that all the mighty army through the groom no more his charger knew, and he who drove might seek in vain to tell his elephant again. With every joy and rapture fired, entranced with all the heart desired, the myriads of the host that night reveled delirious with delight. Urged by the damsels at their side in wild delight the warriors cried, "Ne'er will we seek Ayodhyá, no, nor yet to D a letter 1E47 letter 1E0D a K forest go, here will we stay. May happy fate on Bharat and on Rama wait." Thus cried the army gay and free exulting in their lawless glee, both infantry and those who rode on elephants or steeds bestrode, 10,000 voices shouting, "This is heaven indeed for perfect bliss." With garlands decked they idly strayed, and danced and laughed and sang and played. At length as every soldier eyed, with food like Amrit satisfied, each dainty cate and tempting meat, no longer had he care to eat. Thus soldier, servant, dame and slave received whate'er the wish might crave. As each in Nurat, clothes arrayed, enjoyed the feast before him laid. Each man was seen in white attire, unstained by spot or speck of mire. None was athirst or hungry there, and none had dust upon his hair. On every side in woody dells was milky food in bubbling wells, and there were all supplying cows and honey dropping from the boughs. Nor wanted lakes of flower-made drink with piles of meat upon the brink, boiled, stewed, and roasted, varied cheer, peachick and junglefowl and deer, there was the flesh of kid and boar, and dainty sauce in endless store, with juice of flowers concocted well, and soup that charmed the taste and smell, and pounded fruits of bitter taste. And many a bath was ready placed down by each river's shelving side there stood great basins well supplied, and laid therein, of dazzling sheen white brushes for the teeth were seen. And many a covered box wherein was sandal powdered for the skin. And mirrors bright with constant care, and piles of new attire were there, and store of sandals and of shoes, thousands of pairs for all to choose. Iungents, combs for hair and beard, umbrellas fair and bows appeared. Lakes gleamed, that lent digestive aid, 368, and some for pleasant bathing made, with waters fair, and smooth incline for camels, horses, mules, and kine. There saw they barley heaped on high the countless cattle to supply. The golden grain shone fair and bright as sapphires, or the lazulite. To all the gathered host it seemed as if that magic scene they dreamed, and wonder, as they gazed, increased at Bharadvaja's glorious feast. Thus in the hermit's grove, they spent that night in joy and merriment, blessed as the gods who take their ease under the shade of Nandan's trees. Each minstrel bade the saint adieu, and to his blissful mansion flew, and every stream and heavenly dame returned as swiftly as she came. Canto 92. Bharat's farewell. So Bharat with his army spent the watches of the night content, and gladly, with the morning's light drew near his host the anchorite. When Bharadvaja saw him stand with hand in reverence joined to hand, when fires of worship had been fed, he looked upon the prince and said, "O blameless son, I pray thee tell, did the past night content thee well? Say if the feast my care supplied thy host of followers gratified. His hands he joined, his head he bent and spoke an answer reverent to the most high and radiant sage who issued from his hermitage. Well have I passed the night. Thy feast gave joy to every man and beast, and I, great lord, and every peer were satisfied with sumptuous cheer. Thy banquet has delighted all from highest chief to meanest thrall, and rich attire and drink and meat banish the thought of toil and heat. And now, O hermit good and great, a boon of thee I supplicate. To Rama's side my steps I bend, do thou with friendly eye commend. O tell me how to guide my feet to virtuous Rama's lone retreat, great hermit, I entreat thee, say how far from here and which the way. Thus by fraternal love inspired the chieftain of the saint inquired. Then thus replied the glorious seer of matchless might, of vows austere. Ere the 4th league from here be passed, amid a forest wild and vast, stands Chitr a Ku acute letter 1E60, a S mountain tall, lovely with wood and waterfall. North of the mountain thou wilt see the beauteous stream Mandakini, where swarm the waterfowl below, and gay trees on the margin grow. Then will a leafy cot between the river and the hill be seen. T's Rama, S, and the princely pair of brothers live for certain there. Hence to the south thine army lead, and then more southward still proceed, so shalt thou find his lone retreat, and there the son of Raghu meet. Soon as the ordered march they knew, the widows of the monarch flew, leaving their cars, most meet to ride, and flocked to Bharadvaja's side. There with the good Sumatra queen Kausalya, sad and worn, was seen, caressing, still with sorrow faint, the feet of that illustrious saint. Kaikeyí too, her longings crossed, reproached of all, her object lost, before the famous hermit came, and clasped his feet, o'erwhelmed with shame. With circling steps, she humbly went around the saint praeminent, and stood not far from Bharat's side with heart oppressed and heavy-eyed. Then the great seer, who never broke one holy vow, to Bharat spoke. Speak, Raghu's son, I fain would learn the story of each queen in turn. Obedient to the high request by Bharadvaja thus addressed, his reverent hands together laid, he, skilled in speech, his answer made. She whom, O saint, thou seest here a goddess in her form appear, was the chief consort of the king, now worn with fast and sorrowing. As Aditi in days of yore the all-preserving vish letter 1E47 bore, Kausalya bore, with happy fate, Lord Rama of the Lion's Gate. She who, transfixed with torturing pangs, on her left arm so fondly hangs as when her withering leaves decay droops by the wood the cassia spray. Sumatra, pained with woe, is she the consort second of the 3. 2 princely sons the lady bare, fair as the gods in heaven are fair. And she, the wicked dame through whom my brothers' lives are wrapped in gloom, and mourning for his offspring dear. The king has sought his heavenly sphere. Proud, foolish-hearted, swift to ire, self-fancied darling of my sire, Kaikeyí, most ambitious queen, unlovely with her lovely mien, my mother she, whose impious will is ever bent on deeds of ill, in whom the root and spring I see of all this woe which crushes me. Quick breathing like a furious snake, with tears and sobs the hero spake, with reddened eyes aglow with rage. And Bharadvaja, mighty sage, supreme in wisdom, calm and grave, in words like these good counsel gave. O Bharat, hear the words I say, on her the fault thou must not lay, for many a blessing yet will spring from banished Rama's wandering. And Bharat, with that promise cheered, went circling round that saint revered. He humbly bade farewell, and then gave orders to collect his men. Prompt at the summons thousands flew to cars which noble coursers drew, bright gleaming, glorious to behold, adorned with wealth of burnished gold. Then female elephants and male, gold-girthed with flags that wooed the gale, marched with their bright bells, tinkling chime like clouds when ends the summer time. Some cars were huge and some were light, for heavy draft or rapid flight, of costly price, of every kind, with clouds of infantry behind. The dames, Kausalya at their head, were in the noblest chariots led, and every gentle bosom beat with hope the banished prince to meet. The royal Bharat, glory-crowned, with all his retinue around, borne in a beauteous litter rode, like the young moon and sun that glowed. The army as it streamed along, cars, elephants in endless throng showed, marching on its southward way, like autumn clouds in long array. Canto 93. Chitrakuta in sight. As through the woods its way pursued that mighty bannered multitude, wild elephants in terror fled with all the startled herds they led, and bears and deer were seen on hill, in forest glade, by every rill. Wide as the sea from coast to coast, the high-souled Burrit's mighty host covered the earth as cloudy trains obscure the sky when fall the rains. The stately elephants he led, and countless steeds the land o'erspread, so closely crowded that between their serried ranks no ground was seen. Then when the host had travelled far, and steeds were worn who drew the car, the glorious Burrit thus addressed via execute ish letter 160h of his lords the best. The spot, methinks, we now behold of which the holy hermit told, for, as his words described, I trace each several feature of the place. Before a chitrak acute letter 160 shows, Mandakini beside us flows. Afar umbrageous woods arise like darksome clouds that veil the skies. Now tread these mountain beasts of mine on chitrak acute letter 160, a fair incline. The trees their rain of blossoms shed on tablelands beneath them spread. As from black clouds, the floods descend when the hot days of summer end. Satragna, look, the mountain sea where heavenly minstrels wander free, and horses browse beneath the steep, countless as monsters in the deep. Scared by my host the mountain deer, starting with tempest speed, appear like the long lines of cloud that fly in autumn through the windy sky. See, every warrior shows his head with fragrant blooms and garlanded. All look like southern soldiers who lift up their shields of azure hue. This lonely wood beneath the hill, that was so dark and drear and still, covered with men in endless streams now like Ayodhya's city seems. The dust which countless hoofs excite obscures the sky and veils the light. But see, swift winds those clouds dispel, as if they strove to please me well. See, guided in their swift career by many a skillful charioteer, those cars by fleetest coursers drawn race onward over glade and lawn. Look, startled as the host comes near, the lovely peacocks fly in fear, gorgeous as if the fairest blooms of earth had glorified their plumes. Look where the sheltering covert shows the trooping deer, both bucks and does that occupy in countless herds this mountain populous with birds. Most lovely to my mind appears this place which every charm endears, fair as the road where tread the blessed, here holy hermits take their rest. Then let the army onward press, and duly search each green recess for the two lion lords, till we Rama once more, and L a K SHM, a letter 1E47C. Thus Burrit spoke, and hero bands of men with weapons in their hands entered the tangled forest. Then a spire of smoke appeared in ken. Soon as they saw the rising smoke, to Burrit they returned and spoke, no fire where men are not. 'Tis clear that Raghu's sons are dwelling here. Or if not here those heroes dwell whose mighty arms their foemen quell, still other hermits here must be like Rama, true and good is he. His ears attentive Burrit lent to their resistless argument. Then to his troops, the chief who broke his foes' embattled armies spoke. Here let the troops in silence stay, one step beyond they must not stray. Come DHRISH letter 1E60I and Sumantra, you with me alone the path pursue. Their leader's speech the warriors heard, and from his place no soldier stirred, and Burrit bent his eager eyes where curling smoke was seen to rise. The host his order well obeyed, and halting there in silence stayed, watching where from the thicket's shade they saw the smoke appear. And joy through all the army ran, soon shall we meet, thought every man, the prince we hold so dear. Canto 94. Chitrakuta. There long the son of Raghu dwelt, and love for hill and wood he felt. Then his Vidhan spouse to please, and his own heart of woe to ease, like some immortal. Indra so might Swarga's charms to Sacha show, drew her sweet eyes to each delight of chitrak acute letter 1E60 a s lovely height. Though reft of power and kingly sway, though friends and home are far away, I cannot mourn my altered lot, enamored of this charming spot. Look, darling, on this noble hill which sweet birds with their music fill. Bright with 1,000 metal dyes, his lofty summits cleave the skies. See there a silvery sheen is spread, and there like blood the rocks are red. There shows a streak of emerald green, and pink and yellow glow between. There where the higher peaks ascend, crystal and flowers and topaz blend, and others flash their light afar like Mercury or some fair star. With such a store of metals died the king of hills is glorified. There through the wild birds' populous home the harmless bear and tiger roam. Hyenas range the woody slopes with herds of deer and antelopes. See, love, the trees that clothe his side all lovely in their summer pride, in richest wealth of leaves arrayed, with flower and fruit and light and shade. Look where the young rose-apple glows, what loaded boughs the mango shows. See, waving in the western wind the light leaves of the tamarind, and mark that giant people through the feathery clump of tall bamboo. 369. Look, on the level lands above, delighting in successful love in sweet enjoyment, many a pair of heavenly minstrels revels there, while overhanging boughs support their swords and mantles as they sport. Then see that pleasant shelter, where play the bright daughters of the air. 370. The mountain seems with bright cascade and sweet rill bursting from the shade, like some majestic elephant or whose burning head the torrents pour. Where breathes the man who would not feel delicious languor o'er him steal, as the young morning breeze that springs from the cool cave with balmy wings, breathes round him laden with the scent of bud and blossom dew besprent. If many autumns here I spent with thee, my darling innocent, and Lakshman a letter 1E47, I should never know the torture of the fires of woe. This varied scene so charms my sight. This mount so fills me with delight, where flowers in wild profusion spring, and ripe fruits glow and sweet birds sing. My beauteous one, a double good springs from my dwelling in the wood. Loosed is the bond my sire that tied, and Burrit too is gratified. My darling, dost thou feel with me delight from every charm we see, of which the mind and every sense feel the enchanting influence? My fathers who have passed away, the royal saints, were wont to say that life in woodland shades like this secures a king immortal bliss. See, round the hill at random thrown, huge masses lie of rugged stone of every shape and many a hue, yellow and white and red and blue. But all is fairer still by night. Each rock reflects a softer light, when the whole mount from foot to crest in robes of lambent flame is dressed, when from a million herbs a blaze of their own luminous glory plays, and clothed in fire each deep ravine, each pinnacle and crag is seen. Some parts the look of mansions wear, and others are as gardens fair, while others seem a massive block of solid undivided rock. Behold those pleasant beds o'erlaid with lotus leaves, for lovers made, where mountain birch and costus throw cool shadows on the pair below. See where the lovers in their play have cast their flowery wreaths away, and fruit and lotus buds that crown their brows lie trodden on the ground. North Kuru's realm is fair to see, Vasvikasara, 371 Nalini, 372, but rich in fruit and blossom still more fair is Chitrak letter 1E60, A.S. Hill. Here shall the years appointed glide with thee, my beauty, by my side, and Lakshman a letter 1E47 ever near. Here shall I live in all delight, make my ancestral fame more bright, tread in their path who walk aright, and to my oath adhere. Canto 95. Mandakini. Then Rama, like the lotus-eyed, descended from the mountain side, and to the Maithil lady showed the lovely stream that softly flowed. And thus Ayodhya's lord addressed his bride, of dames the loveliest, child of Vidha's king, her face bright with the fair moon's tender grace. How sweetly glides, O darling, look, Mandakini's delightful brook, adorned with islets, blossoms gay, and cereses and swans at play. The trees with which her banks are lined show flowers and fruit of every kind. The match in radiant sheen is she of King Kuvera's Nalini. 373. My heart exults with pleasure new the shelving band and ford to view, where gathering herds of thirsty deer disturb the wave that ran so clear. Now look, those holy hermits mark in skins of deer and coats of bark, with twisted coils of matted hair. The reverend men are bathing there, and as they lift their arms on high the Lord of Day they glorify. These best of saints, my large-eyed spouse, are constant to their sacred vows. The mountain dances, while the trees bend their proud summits to the breeze, and scatter many a flower and bud from branches that o'erhang the flood. There flows the stream like lucid pearl, round islets here the currents whirl, and perfect saints from middle air are flocking to the waters there. See, there lie flowers in many a heap from boughs the whistling breezes sweep, and others wafted by the gale down the swift current dance and sail. Now see that pair of wildfowl rise, exulting with their joyful cries. Hark, darling, wafted from afar, how soft their pleasant voices are. To gaze on Chitrak acute letter 160 a S hill, to look upon this lovely rill, to bend mine eyes on thee, dear wife, is sweeter than my city life. Come, bathe we in the pleasant rill whose dancing waves are never still, stirred by those beings pure from sin. The sanctities who bathe therein, come, dearest, to the stream descend, approach her as a darling friend, and dip thee in the silver flood which lotuses and lilies stud. Let this fair hill Ayodhyá seem, its sylvan things her people deem, and let these waters as they flow our own beloved Sarju show. How blessed, mine own dear love, am I, thou, fond and true, art ever nigh, and duteous, faithful LAKSHM, a letter 1E47 stays beside me, and my word obeys. Here every day I bathe me thrice, fruit, honey, roots for food suffice, and ne'er my thoughts with longing stray to distant home or royal sway. For who this charming brook can see where herds of roe deer wander free, and on the flowery wooded brink apes, elephants, and lions drink, nor feel all sorrow fly. Thus eloquently spoke the pride of Raghu's children to his bride, and wandered happy by her side, where Chitrak acute letter 1E60, a azure dyed uprears his peaks on high.